Hi there, welcome back to the Board Game Specialists. I'm Carla.
I'm Melanie.
And today we have a special episode. We are interviewing Arsan Buffin, and he is the founder of Kefcon, which is a convention in Edmonton that we're looking so forward to going to this year. And we have so many questions for him about this. But before we get into that, we always talk about games we've played. Arsan, have you played anything recently, or are you looking forward to playing something?
That's a good question. I just moved in July, so my access to playing games is somewhat limited because my table is like, if you look at my table, it's like full of stuff, games stacked everywhere. However, I have managed in the last couple weeks to get some games to the table. One of them was, I'm sure you might know it. It's called Ticket to Ride. So
I've heard of that one.
One of the big three, yes.
Ticket to Ride, I got that to the table. I like to keep it around because it's a great introductory game, and that's a good way to to scale where people are at in terms of their knowledge of board games are just a general mechanism. So I really like to pull that one out. And then the other day here I played Wonderland's War, which is probably my most played board game this year, which at 5 plays, which for me is a lot. That's a lot of plays of one board game. So I really enjoyed that play, and that was with four players. And then what else? Games I'm looking forward to playing. Well, all of them.
The list is long.
Any of them.
Yeah. Awesome.
That's funny.
Mel,
how about you, Carla?
What have you been... Oh, okay, I'll go first. Well, I picked up a game from my local game store. I had been wanting to play it for a while, and it was actually at one of the conventions that we were at this year. And I peeked over and saw Mel playing it, and I'm like, oh, I really want to try that one. And it's just like a pretty simple tile layer game. It's called Planet Unknown. And the cool thing about it is, and I'm not a big lover of space games, but I do look around and see I do have quite a few still. But it's so neat. You have this big kind of lazy Susan in front of you with all these different polyomino tiles on it. And then you all have your own player board. And you'll take a tile. There's 2 options in front of you and in front of everyone. It can play up to 6 players, I believe. And you kind of all play simultaneously, because I will pick from where my little arrow is pointing to, and then the person beside me will pick from theirs, and so on. And what you're doing is you're placing these tiles on your board, and you're trying to, of course, cover up your board. But depending what tile you place, it has 2 different terrains on it, and then you just get to move up tracks. And the tracks you're moving up will give you all kinds of bonuses. And I don't know, you might not know this about me, Arsan, but I love combos and I love bonuses and all those kind of things. And I could just play a game. This kind of is like Gauchon Clever, but a board game, like where you go up here. Oh, but then I get to do this. But this lets me go over here and do this, and so on and so on. It's just so fun, because you're just basically moving up these tracks, but one will give you a boost on another one, which will give you these cards that you get to look at, which will give you a cool bonus. And then you'll get to move this little rover around and collect things on your board for points. It's just so fun. I love it. And it's like, I bet you could play it even with 6 players within an hour, just because it's simultaneous. Another one I got to the table, which I had bought, I think at Gobfest, which was like a convention in the spring, and I just finally got it to the table. It's called Merlin. It's one of Stefan Feld's older games, and it's very different from what he usually designs. It has some area control in it, which he typically doesn't add that to his games. It's mostly just like kind of Euro trading or collecting, that kind of thing. But this one is really neat because it's kind of looks like a roll and move, but it's not. You do roll dice and you will use the dice to move, but you can manipulate your movement around this rondelle, and you can move yourself or you can move Merlin. with your white dice, and it'll just give you different things you can do, but you are trying to like gain what's the term, I forget now, just gaining little control in these areas. Then around the board I think there's 8 different areas. You'll just like put your cubes out, and then like every second round is a scoring round, and whoever has like the majority will get the points of those. But then there's all different kinds of scoring. You have these little manners that you're trying to place out on another board and trying to control these areas. You can get points from like collecting things. You can get points from, you have to fight off these traitors in your castle, and if you have like the Excalibur, you'll get points if you've fought off all those traitors, they're called. There's so many things. It is the point salad that he typically does, but in such a different way. I really enjoyed that. Another one I played is Nicodemus. Now this is a 2-player version of Imaginarium, and it's a newer one that just came out, and it's so good. It's such, I played so many of those 2-player games they've done such a good job with them and they don't even really need to be made, because the game itself can be played as a 2-player, but 2-player versions are even better. Hint, Seven Wonders Duel, really like that one compared to Big Game. But this one, it's so good. You just, I don't know if you've ever played the Big Game Imaginarium, where you're basically building engines, literally engines, and just trying to fulfill these objectives. But you have some like attack engines that can harm other people, and once you kind of collect your objectives, you have to get rid of your engines, and you can also get rid of them to gain more resources to build more engines. And it's just sort of a real different type of engine building game, where in the 2-player game it's the same kind of thing, only you only have this handful of resources that you're very limited to, and if they're all gone and I gain a resource, well, it comes from you. So you just kind of steal back and forth, and you're just trying to race to get the most points, obviously. But same kind of cards, like idea, but it just has a different, unique 2-player mechanism, this one, that's really intriguing, that you guys should try. And then one last one is just a plain little word game that I just picked up yesterday, or just got from Amazon just because it was a super deal, and it's called Inkling. And so you have all these little cards. They're just little square cards, and most of them are in shapes of letters, but some are a little bit different. And what you're doing is everybody gets this card, and it has like a bunch of words on it. And so you have 3 rounds, and you're trying to make everybody guess as many words as you can. And you all play at the same time. So you arrange these cards to like spell words, but you might have to like twist some cards around to make like this, to make it kind of look like an O, or you might have to flip one face down because there's no way you can make that letter. So you're like, okay, I'm hoping they can figure out what this letter is. And then you can do like a crossword if you want to try to get them to guess 2 words in like one round. And it's neat because as you're trying to get people to guess yours, you're guessing to the person on your right and the person on your left. So you're also trying to guess what they made, and they're trying to guess what you made, and you'll get points for portraying the right word and guessing the right words. And then at the end, you just add those points all together. And it's kind of like a word game, but has a bit of like artsiness to it, because you're kind of arranging these around, and it's really neat. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. But Mel, what about you? What have you been playing?
Well, was it last week? I purchased 18 games.
Oh, yes, I have very bag. Little. I don't know if you can all see just the bag sitting there for Mel too.
So self-control is not one of my forte. I've got other qualities. But I ended up going on, somebody had posted a bend and all artichoke, and my sister was coming over, so I was like, it was in Calgary, I was like, hey, pick this up for me, come on over. So I got that one, and they ended up playing it, and it was so neat. It's a simple card game, but basically it's like a deck building game, but you start with 10 cards, and all of your cards are artichokes. And you're trying to get rid of them, because in order to win the game, you need to draw 5 cards and not have any artichokes in them. So you're trying to accumulate more of the different vegetable cards to kind of add to your deck. So then that will kind of lower the ratio of artichoke in your deck. And then you're trying to play, because each card also has like a special ability of what you can do, and some will allow you to, they call it compost some vegetables, but then you're trying to compost some of these artichokes so that you're more likely to draw 5 cards and not have an artichoke in it. It was cute. It was super simple, easy, but it was a lot of fun. And then on Friday I had a game night. I do game night at my house every second Friday, but this one was cool because I've moved to Acme, Alberta, and it's a village with a population of 650 people, so it is small. And somebody on the Acme community Facebook page had kind of commented something about, hey, we should get together and play cards or board games for the winter months. And I'm like, oh, pick me, pick me. So, and somebody had commented on there, like, oh yeah, my family loves to play board game. We play anything from Uno to Scythe. And I was like, oh.
Hello.
I think we need to be friends. And honestly, and I did my Facebook creeping, and I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I think we need to be friends, basically. So her and her husband ended up coming to game night on Friday. So that was neat to kind of meet some local gamers as well. And then we ended up playing mostly just a bunch of little games. We played just one, which is neat. Everybody kind of take turn putting a card in front of you that you don't see. You pick a number from 1 to 5, and that'll associate to one word. And everybody else will have these little plastic kind of things in front of them that you'll put a one-word clue on it. Now you're trying to be unique enough that somebody else is not going to put the same clue, because if they did, that erases us out. And then you will kind of show the clues to the person who's guessing this round, and sometimes it doesn't relate. It's like, what? And then somebody kind of goes a little obscure and is like, that one just messes me up. It's like we did one. It was like the word was palace. So one other clue was castle. One was princess. One was like different things. And I put building. And then I was like, okay, that building one really messes me up, so I'm gonna ignore it. And I was like, my clue's the best clue. It was funny. It was neat. And then we played Cash and Guns. And this one is just hilarious. Like you all have a foam gun. Basically, you've gone on a robbery, and now you're splitting the loot of everything that's been stolen. But before you do that, there's a bit of bickering, and not everybody makes it to the loot division, right? So you'll count to 3, and everybody points their foam gun to another player. But you've drawn a card, and it's either has a bullet or it's a blank, and they don't know. And like, so then at that point, once you have like all the guns pointed, you decide, are you staying in this? Are you ducking out, basically? Because if you get shot, you don't take part of the loot. But if you kind of back down, you also don't take part of the loot, but you don't take any damage. And then, or you don't get hurt, right? So you get to kind of live another round. But it's just hilarious. So that one was neat. I didn't back down, so I was killed. So it didn't work out too good for me, but it was neat. We played a quick round of No Thanks, which is such a simple game. Like, it has, I don't know what it goes from, like 3 to 40 or 50 something cards. And you randomly pull out 9 cards, and then you have the deck of cards in the middle, and you take turn flipping it over, and you have 7 tokens in front of you. And on your turn, like, you'll flip the card, and it'll be, let's say it's number 27. Now you have the choice of either taking the card, but now that would give you 27 points, or putting one of your token on it to pass. And the goal is to have as low points as possible. But if I take 27 and then later on I take 26, well, now because they form a run, that now becomes, that combination of card is now worth only 26 points. So you're trying to create these runs so that you can kind of lower the amount of points you're collected, and trying to play these tokens to pass on the cards that's just going to add too much points to your hand. But then whoever takes the card when there's a bunch of tokens on them will get to take all of those tokens as well, which will allow you to pass more in the future. And then at the end of the game, they're also worth -1 point. So it's just a simple, fun game. And it plays a fairly large group, so that was great for that. And then the last thing we played is this game called Stupid Death. And you have this board, and it has like a circle in the middle, and at one end you have the Grim Reaper, and at the other end you have all the players' characters. And then you take turn reading from a card, and it's almost like we're all reading like on our best newscaster voice about an event where somebody died. You know, and then you have to vote, and you have these two little coffin voting cards. One says true, one says false, and you vote with like whether that was a true that really happened or if that didn't happen. And one of them was like this famous dog walker in New York City ended up where one of the dog got chasing a fire truck, and then all the dogs followed, and she got dragged and died. It's like, okay, so was that true? Was that not true? I'm like, I don't know. It's like, it's 50-50, but I am super good at guessing wrong. Way more than 50-50. So, but then if you're wrong, you stay put. If you're correct, your character moves forward by 1. And for every wrong answer, the Grim Reaper also moves forward in the back, and if he ever reaches you, he kills you. So it was like a different silly game. It was just kind of entertaining, mostly to kind of see how their people are reading the story, trying to sound, because you're trying not to hint at all as to what's going to be. And these stories are ridiculous, and it's like, okay, that's insane. Like, is that for real? Did somebody really die that way? But it was entertaining. So that was the last one we played that evening.
Awesome. Yeah, and now we get to look forward to some spooky games this weekend. If anyone's having a day today, you are having a day today. Arsan, are you going to get to play some Halloween games or
maybe?
Like that?
Maybe, we'll see.
Awesome. Well, let's get to the heart of the episode here. We're gonna fire some questions at you about Kefcon. We're both looking so forward to going. It feels like we haven't been to a convention forever, and we literally were at one 2 months ago. But I think I could go to one a month. One a month would be perfect, I think. But now, tell us, how did you get started in the gaming hobby?
So let's go picture this. Just kidding. It was basically what happened was I've always been like a gamer, like video games, right? Like I've always really enjoyed playing those kind of games. Playing Super Nintendo, you know, I've been playing games since like Atari, and so that's always been a constant in my life. And then the thing that kicked it off was I lived in Vancouver briefly for about 6 months. I couldn't find work, and I ended up moving back to Edmonton, and I got a job right away. But anyways, in Vancouver, the place I was staying at, they had this game night or night where they played this game called Cards Against Humanity.
Okay.
And you look at the box and you're like, oh, what's this game? You know, I was like, keep in mind my prior interactions with board games were like when I was a young guy playing like Risk and Monopoly and stuff like that. It was just off. I'm not saying those games are bad, but it was awful experiences for me at the time. So that's the first thing I think of. And so they pull out this game, Cards Against Humanity, and I'm like, oh, what is this? You know, and there's about 6 people here, and we're playing, and it was just a blast. Like, keep in mind, this is right when Cards Against Humanity first came out, right? And I was like, oh, this is really fun, you know, playing this card game, like that's great. And then I came back to Edmonton, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna buy that game, and I'm gonna play it with my friends here, right? So I did, and I brought it, and none of my friends had played it either. So they all really enjoyed it. It was like the standard to bring to parties, you know.
Right.
Parties as you pull out that game. You have the LOLs, and then my 30th birthday was coming up, And so I was thinking of like Dirty 30 theme, like what did people do in their 30s? You know, they played dice and stuff like that, right? And so I was like, I fell down this rabbit hole, this deep rabbit hole. I'm sure you guys are familiar with, where I was watching Dice Tower top tens and all these top ten lists of like
Yeah.
games you need to start with, essential
Yeah.
games everybody owns. So then I was like,
Yeah.
okay, cool. So then I went to Brian Flowers, like before Tabletop Cafe was open. It was he had it open where people could go buy games there. So I went there and I dropped about $250 and I bought 5 games. I bought like Ticket to Ride. I bought Merchants and Marauders. I bought Dixit. What else did I buy? Anyways, so I bought all these games because I was gonna play them at my birthday, right? So I invited a bunch of my friends, and the thing I learned really quickly is that just because you are into board games or you are interested in board games doesn't mean that your friends or people close to you are going to be
It's
into,
shocking, isn't it?
It's so
Yeah.
hard to understand. I know.
So I had these games out on a table and everything. And I was like, whoa, why aren't these people? Why aren't they having such a great time? Why aren't they
Yeah.
invested?
What's wrong
Right?
with them?
Yeah, right. Am I the problem? No,
I can't be it.
they're
Okay.
wrong.
It's
Right?
them.
So
It's them.
I started discovering these games, and I was like, whoa, these are great. You know, Dixit is an awesome game. It still is an
Yeah.
awesome game.
It's neat.
And then like you fall into like the hobby where you're watching these videos and people are telling you how awesome these games are, and you're like, oh, I gotta try that game. Oh, I have to try that game. Oh, this game was great. Let's try that, right?
Yeah.
And then it was just a downward spiral.
It's
Not
a
downward.
slippery slope. Yeah.
It was a very slippery slope for me, right? And I just like because I just wanted to try everything, and so that's pretty much how I got into it. And then like the first board game convention, I was like, oh, there's board game conventions. What's this? So then I went to Gobfest, right? Gobfest, and
Nice.
This was in 2005, I think, or 2000.
Wow.
Sorry, not 2005. Sorry, 2014. It was 2014 or 2015. It was so long ago now. Anyways, so I go to this. I'm like, what's this Gobfest? So I go there, and I was just blown away. It was like a hall full of people playing board games. Couldn't believe it. I myself had a hard time just finding people to play
Yeah.
board games with, because
And
like
they all want to play them all day long. It's like
yeah.
paradise.
Exactly right. You're like, whoa, like everybody's. And then you like look at the what's it called, the schedule of games that are teaching. And my first year, I was like, oh, I never played any of these games. Terraforming Mars, what's that? No, sorry, Terra Mystica, what's that?
Oh, yeah.
So then I signed up for all these games to learn, and and it was great, having games taught to you that you have at home. It was a very unique experience, right? You get, oh, so that's what that game is. Oh, that game actually wasn't that great. Oh, this game is awesome, right? I'm sure you guys
Yeah.
can relate. And so that really cemented my interest. And then once you start connecting with people, then you start having like game group or people that you can have a pool of playing board games with. That really helped get me to where I am today.
That's awesome.
Nice. Now, in all of those, and you've been exposed to many games now, do you have a favorite mechanism that stands out to you? That is just
Oh.
like, like that one is probably what I like because I like that genre.
Well, I think my favorite mechanism is like area control. I really like
really?
area control games. I find like when I look at like the games that I bring to the table a lot, they're like area control games, and like so. There's just something fun about because I like player interaction. Like I'm not so much a fan of like as we
Solo.
know, like the multiplayer solitaire games, right?
Yeah.
Where you're I don't need to
Face
explain
down.
it to you guys, right? But
Yeah.
I love player interaction, where it's like, even though sometimes it can be mean, but life can be mean sometimes, and so you try to find the games that are less mean in terms of like what you take away from somebody, oh, it's just a slight delay or whatever,
Yes.
right? So area control is a big one for me, and then like what's it called? dice placement. Can I say? I guess it's
Oh,
Oh
dice
yeah.
placement in terms of
love
like
those.
my favorite game is one of them is probably Raj's the Ganges,
Oh, that's a
and
good game.
love that game. Right? It's like there's dice everywhere.
Yeah.
Dice is like is kind of like economy, and like like there's so many games like those Italian designers, right?
Oh
Like
yeah.
Right.
they use them a lot. See behind you, Carla, you have Lorenzo Magnifico,
Yeah.
right? There's
Marco Polo's back there too.
yeah,
Oh, it's
Voyages of
his, but
Marco
yeah.
Polo,
Yeah.
Newton, right?
Hmm.
All those games are like those do perfectly with dice.
Yeah.
What I love in a board game. So I'll just keep it at those two right now.
Yeah.
Like there's several I
Those
enjoy,
are
but
just
those
at
are
the top of your list, right?
yeah,
Because you
those are at the top.
probably love a lot of different games. Yeah. But can you nail it down to one favorite game?
Oh, easy, easy.
Yeah. What's your
Francis
favorite?
Drake. Francis
Oh.
Drake is my favorite.
Oh, I've never
board
played
game.
that.
Oh man.
Wow. To get me to
It's
teach me that.
oh yeah. Like maybe like I left some spots open at Kefcon so that
Yeah.
like maybe I'll pull out because at I'll talk about that after. But
Yeah.
Francis Drake is a fantastic game because it's like one of those games that has two parts to it. There's the first part which is like the resources, like gathering resources, and that's done by like almost like a rondel mechanism where you know where there's like a line of stuff and you go here but you can't go back, right?
Oh yeah.
It plays fantastic at 5 players too. So I like the games that have 5 player count games. That's why I like Wonderland's War sticks out to me because it
Yeah.
plays really well at 5 players. It scales well, I guess. And then so you're gathering resources, you're gathering units, or crew, you're gathering supplies, you're gathering guns. And then the second, which prepares you for the second phase, which is the sailing phase, which is you're sailing around and going like trying to attack forts and trying to attack ships and towns and stuff like that, so that you can get resources, get gems and stuff like that, and your ability to be able to attack these places is determined by the resources you get in the first round, right? So it's just a brilliant design, and it'll always, I think it'll always be my favorite. I just really love playing it. So anyways, that's it.
Awesome.
Number one, man. Number one.
Number one.
That was easy.
There you go. Now, Kefcon, and where does the name come from?
So that's a two-part answer. So
Okay.
the first answer and is the one that I tell people, which is more humble, is it stands for Keeping Evenings Fun Convention, right? Because when do people primarily play board games? They play it in the evenings, right?
That's cool.
At least that's when I play board games, is in the
Right.
evening. Waking up at 8 a.m. playing board games, but it's in the evening, right? So that's where that part came from. But the alternate part of it came from is my nickname is Kefka, like in the online world. So I just kind of, as you know, Melcon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Melcon. So I just had it at Kefcon, and at the time, Kefcon was like a non-profit, and so I had a board of directors and everything like that, and I was like, so I brought forth some names for them, right? I was like, oh, here's these names. What do you think of these names? And then they're like, oh, it has to be Kefcon. You know, it's so it is you, right? And so I was like, okay, that's what it is. And then I just attached the acronym, which I said earlier, to it.
Yeah.
So that's where it came from.
Awesome. How did the event get started? And when? When as well?
So the way the event got started is when I first got into board games in the first like 2 years. I went all over Western Canada to board game conventions because I was just so obsessed with it, as you guys know, right? So I went to Podfest, I went to what's it called?
Falcon.
Game-A-Lot. That's another one in Edmonton, and then I went to Falcon. I went in Saskatchewan. There's ToonCon, which is in Saskatoon. I went to
Yeah.
Brandon, Manitoba. I drove the 14 hours to Brandon, Manitoba for their event,
awesome.
Prairie Con, and then I went to Vancouver for Terminal City Tabletop Convention, right? So I went all over the place to discover these to go check out these board game conventions, right? Because I just was like, more,
More.
right? And it's just so fun going to these places and being exposed to like new environments, and like if you go multiple years, you see the same faces all the time. You know, you see who are the movers are and shakers are, like the characters of that community. And then what happened was, like I said, my 30th birthday, I was like, I wanted to do my own board game thing, right? So I hosted it at my house. I had like 4 tables set up, and you know, all the tables had people at them. And then I was like, and I was working at Home Depot at the time. It was late. It was like 5 a.m. or something like that. And I turned to one of my friends, well, he's a friend now, but one of my coworkers, and I was like, you know what I want to do? I want to do a board game convention. And then he's like, oh yeah, and I was, because he played board games with me, right? And so and I was like, how hard can it be? You know, you do it.
Famous last words.
Yeah, right. Yeah. You get an event, you get a venue, you get some board games to the table, and you're good to go. That's all you need, right? So what happened was, after you go to a board game convention and you go the next year, and not everybody's like at the same passion as everybody else, right? So for example, my second year of Gobfest, they almost ran all the same games as they did the year before, right? I understand why they do that, because they're really hot games. They're really games that people are excited about. But for me, for somebody who plays one game once and then moves on to the next game and plays that once and moves on to the next game, it's not as investing, I guess, right? So then I was like, okay, well, that's notable. You know, if I'm going to go to an event, and I would like a schedule of games that I've never played before, you know, that I can learn. And so I took that part of it, and then I went to all these other board game conventions I went to. I took the parts that I really liked of them. So, for example, FallCon, I took the FallCon auction, because auctions are awesome. I love auctions.
They're addicting. It's a problem.
Yeah. I saw your stack, Melanie. And then like the games that I wanted to host, right? So then I was like, okay, here's some pieces. These are the parts I know that I really like about board game conventions. I'm gonna put them into one. And then I was like, okay, what's the next thing I need? Okay, get a venue. Found a venue. That was easy enough. And then the thing was the games, right? So by that time I knew people in the hobby. So I was like, hey, Jared, you want to come run some board games for me at my event? Or hey, this person, you want to come run games for me? And so, can you run like 12 games throughout the weekend? Can you run 10 games throughout the weekend, right? Keep in mind we were slightly younger then, so we had like our energy levels were quite high. So then I started. So then I was like, okay, now I have the first Kefcon, and then the main thing was like trying to come up with the money with it, right? Because you're paying out of pocket. Like nobody else is paying for it. So the first Kefcon cost me like $2,000, because you had to pay for the venue, you had to pay for I knew I wanted raffle games, because raffle games are fun. So trying to find those raffle games and paying for insurance and paying for the canteen, all that stuff adds up, right? You don't anticipate it until you're there, and then you're in the hole. And then the big thing that like was really stressful was, will anybody come to this event, right? It's an unknown event. Nobody knows anything about it. Right. What is Kefcon? What is that? So you're trying to go into a hobby, which I was only in a hobby a year, and then I was like, oh, why don't I try doing a board game convention, right? And like I said, I get obsessive about things, right? So board games, the convention was one of them. And then I had to figure out how to make a website, so I learned from YouTube tutorials how to make the Kefcon.ca website. And then you put it out there, and then you would just wait, you see if people are going to come or not, right? And then I was like, hey, the Kefcon is also partly my birthday party, because I hosted on the same week as my birthday. My birthday's November 15th, so this year it's like November 18th to 20th. So it's kind of like low key my birthday.
Nice.
I see a theme here between you two.
Same with MelCon, right?
Because Mel does hers on her birthday, but if I were to ever do a convention, I don't know when I'd do it, because me and Mel share a birthday.
Yeah.
When is CarCon gonna happen?
Just do it on the next weekend, right?
Yeah,
And
that's
so,
right. Back to back convention.
yeah, right. Back-to-back conventions. Why not?
Yeah.
And then,
Just stretch it out, make a whole week instead of a weekend.
yeah, like 5 days. Let's do it, right? Gen Con,
Yeah.
that's it. Let's do it.
Oh, that's
And
awesome.
yeah, so
Wait, what year did Kefcon start? What was the
I
first
think it
year?
started in 2015, actually.
Yeah?
Yeah, in November.
How many people was there the first year? How many
The first
attended?
year, I think I had 38 people, 38
Nice.
to 44 people come, which, like I said, people don't like to register for your event until like a week or 2 weeks before. So I was
Yeah.
like, oh, nobody's coming, nobody's gonna come to my event, and I was trying to make myself feel better because I was like, oh, well, at least I'll have my friends there. You know, we'll have a
Yeah.
good time. We'll have a big hall to ourselves and stuff like
Yeah.
trying to see the silver lining, right? And
Yeah.
but people came and it was amazing, right? It was like, whoa, people are here, people are paying money to come to this event, right? And so yeah, it was humble numbers for sure.
That's awesome. So now tell us about like what can we expect at the event? Like I know for a fact there's scheduled plays, which is awesome. You have to all go on this website and check out the games that are going to be taught there. I'm teaching one of my my ultimate favorite game. I get to teach Everdell. So if you guys, I think there's one spot left. If one of you guys want to come and learn from someone who's very passionate about this game, I'm going to teach some expansions there. But what else can we expect at this convention? Like, is there a flea market? How many people are you expecting? Like, is there food there? Tell us about it.
So you can expect a good time. That's guaranteed.
Absolutely.
That's what matters.
I never go into convention thinking, oh, I hope this is fun. I know I'm gonna
You know
have
it's going to
fun
be
going
fun.
to a convention.
Yep.
Yeah, that's
As long as the
beauty
games are on the
about these.
table, right?
Yeah,
It's all you need, yeah.
yeah.
So what you can expect at Kefcon is like the unofficial heavy board game convention, right? I didn't call it that. That's what people call it, right? So the focus of Kefcon is the games that I like to play. So I kind of try to curate the games that are being played because, like, as yourselves, I spend a lot of time on social media saying what are the games that people are playing, or what games do I like that I would really like to play, right? And so I try to feature like the heavy games and medium weight games, like worker placement games, the games that take like 2 to 3 hours that there's a lot of investment in. That's the priority. That's the focus. We don't really have a lot of entry level games. They're heavy, they're crunchy games that people have a hard time getting to the table. This year's event is Cthulhu themed, so every year I try to have a different theme, just like board games, right? It's like
I'm excited for that theme, I gotta say. I love Cthulhu games.
Yeah, so one of my favorite games is Arkham Horror, and so a lot of people have a hard time getting those games to the table because they take a while, and you need 5 people to play them. Like, you can have less, but it's awesome having a full table of investigators getting clues and stuff like that, right? So I use Kefcon, or I'm using this Kefcon to highlight Cthulhu themed games, right? So Cthulhu Wars, Cthulhu Death May Die, Arkham Horror, Eldritch Horror, Mansions of Madness, etc. There's other names I forgot, but like those games. And then the other thing is we also have a board game auction. So it's not a really big auction. Every year we have about 100 to 150 games, which, it's in comparison to FallCon. FallCon has like 400 games usually, right?
I'm bringing a load, so you'll have a big stack for me.
So it's and I'm going to put a bunch of games in there too, right? So it's you got to have an auction. It's super fun to just sit there and like bid on games, and people are walking away with games that they don't even know what they are. They're like, what did I just buy?
You have to almost come to just watch Mal at an auction. It's an entertainment.
Oh my god, I have a problem. I like when we went to Gobfest, I was like, okay, I'm not gonna go to the auction. Like, I'm not gonna go. And then we were playing Feast of Odin, and we're like, I was like, it wasn't going smooth. We're like, okay, do we want to just end this now? And so we walked in the middle of auction. I was like, oh no, yeah.
Well, and there's a group of us girls that we try to get together and play with Mel a lot, but we have a little chat, and we always make bets of how many games she's gonna buy. But now I think we just need to make bets on how high the stack will be of the games that she's gonna buy, because the number is kind of regardless.
And it's bad. Like, so I'm at 14, but Ashley is bet 16. So she's like, "Hey, you need to buy one more." I was like, "Here, I'll lend you some money." When she goes,
yeah, that was unfair.
It's bad. They're enablers. But the auction is great, and I love that that's there.
And they're fun to just watch too. Yeah.
And then other things is like I try to, like, before we used to run the canteen ourselves, but that takes a lot of energy, and like usually I don't make money off of it. Maybe I don't charge enough money, but then I have to have volunteers running it, right? So I'm trying to make Kefcon as streamlined as possible and requiring hardly anybody to run it, right? Just me. And so last year the last one in 2019, I had a vendor or a caterer come to do it. This year I have another caterer who's just getting started, and he's going to be serving like Bannock burgers. Like he's First Nations. So
awesome.
People really love the Bannock burgers and love the Bannock at the last event. So this guy is going to do the same thing. So I was like, oh, this guy's new. He's just getting his catering his catering business started. So look forward to that. And then
would he have any vegetarian options?
Oh yeah. I make sure that they know that we have vegetarians there and that they need to cater to them. They need to. It needs to be more inclusive, I guess, right?
Right.
Not everybody's carnivores. And then I'm gonna have a couple vendors. I think I'm only gonna have one or two vendors. One of them is a girl that you guys know who's gonna have signs. Right?
Ashley is gonna have her signs there. You guys all have to come see them.
Her signs are amazing. It's neat.
She asked to do that, and I was like, sure, go ahead. And then I'm gonna have Pimento games there.
Oh, nice.
That is
we're big
awesome
fans.
Store.
Yeah, he's always been a supporter of my events in the last few years. So I was like, you know what, come and bend, and so he'll
great prices too. They have luckily they were just down the street from Gobfest when we were
luckily
there.
I don't know. I don't know if that was a good thing.
I know you guys all played Creature Comforts, and then someone leaked out, oh, there's one at the game store over here. Well, 3 of them marched down there and bought one, but like the prices there, so I of course had to go down and check everything out there too, but the prices are really good there, and they're just like lovely, like great staff. It's a great place.
You guys got to check them out. It was a great store.
And what's it called again? Pedaway? No. Pimento. Yeah. It's a great store. I'll have to write that in the bottom too.
What else was there? I think that's it. I talked about the food. I talked about the auction. I talked about the games.
Oh yeah, how many people are you expecting?
Oh,
did you have a clue or no?
Right now I think with teachers, I think we're at about 50 people.
Oh, nice.
So Kefcon is like a smaller event, so like at its
because it's the elite.
Yeah, right. It's the people that really want to be there, and like it's the most people I've ever had at a Kefcon was about 88 people, I think, and I think
bet you'll have that easy.
I think for my event, I couldn't go beyond that, right? Unless I started incorporating other things like tabletop RPG or wargaming, right? Which I've talked to other organizers about combining our resources or combining, and some of them are pretty keen on just keeping their own identity. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And that's cool too. But if I wanted to grow, but you know what? For me, 80 people is a party. That's quite the party, and like the thing I really enjoy, and the one thing I really try to embody in Kefcon is that it represents me, and that people have a good time. So when people are having problems, they come find me, right? So often what happens is I'll be teaching a game and I get called away all the time. Somebody will come, hey Arsan, something blah blah, and I'm like, okay, sorry guys, I gotta step away. And at this point now, people are at the table know to expect me to leave. So I'm just like, play my turns for me. I don't even care, and then I just go off and then have to go put out a fire, right? But as this event goes on, people are getting pretty good at handling things themselves, right? So I think that's the big important thing for me, is that when people come to my event, that I try to greet everybody who comes through, and I try to know everybody's faces, because I'm hosting them. I'm trying to host them, right? And I'm trying to make sure everybody has a good time. And there's a meta thing to that, which I can talk about later too.
Now, I mean, it's neat to kind of see how this all evolved for you. What would you recommend if somebody says, I've been thinking of wanting to do my own con? Like, any recommendations for them?
Don't do it. Just don't do it.
It's too late for us. Save yourself.
No. Absolutely. More. There's more is better. The thing to be considerate about is the amount of work that goes into it, right? That you have to personally put into it. It's one thing to try to find a group of people who want to do the same thing, which is good luck with that, and that's fantastic, because what you'll find is often the workload will fall onto one person anyways. But I'm not discouraging against that. Maybe you're better at relationship building than I am, or maintaining boundaries or whatever. But what the key thing is to figure out when you want to do it. Timing is everything. You don't want to be in conflict with other events.
Right.
This is why I have Kefcon in November, so I don't really step on anybody's toes, because in Edmonton we have Game-A-Lot, and Game-A-Lot didn't go down this year, but usually Game-A-Lot happens in either September and October, and then there's FallCon, which also happens in the fall, right?
Yeah.
So the key is to not have your event while there's other conventions happening,
right.
Trying to have it on the same weekend or even the same month, because people are kind of tapped. Some board game conventions, or the price of attending them is increasing with inflation. It costs $50 to go to GovFest now. It costs $50 to go to FallCon. Not everybody can drop $100 to go to two conventions in a weekend, right? In a month. So timing is important. Don't have your event during a long weekend, because nobody will come to it. Definitely don't have it during May long weekend, because everybody's going camping. Nobody wants to come play board games. I learned that the hard way. And then
what about an outdoor camping con? There's one.
Well, there is.
There could be CarlaCon.
Yeah, you do that. I'll be there for sure. For sure. That's another thought completely. But the first thing is timing, and then figure out, and then have it small. Start small. Don't try to aim big, right? Especially if you're just starting out yourself. Find yourself a reasonable priced hall, right? Which is central or whatever, and make sure that, and the hall is actually really important, because you have to consider things like noise. Because when you go into a hall and there's noise pollution, and everybody's talking and laughing and everything, it can be a lot. Especially if you're trying to teach a game or trying to focus on a game, you'll notice the volume just goes whoosh, right? So the hall, does the hall have canteen? Does it have Wi-Fi? Wi-Fi is important. Is it easy to manage with a small team, cleaning up the garbage? Those are things. The hall is pretty important, because people will say, "Oh, that's a good hall," or they'll tell you they don't like it, right? So that's something that's easy to overlook. The games, what's your focus with the kind of games you're going to play? Is it, I really believe that every event should have its own soul, or have its own identity. So what is your identity? What is your gimmick or whatever? What is the thing that are bringing people to want to come to your event, right? What is it that you do different than everybody else? At least those are things that I consider with mine. I like it to be specific, and I think that if you want your event to have longevity, or have a die-hard community that wants to come to your event, find out what your niche is. And I guess I can stop there. There's other things too, logistical things, you need insurance, right? You got to have renter's insurance. You got to have What are you going to do for canteen? Are you
Yeah.
prepared to take a loss on canteen, or are you going to charge? Are you just going to charge more for it, right? You got to have veggie friendly options. Not everybody is carnivore, right? You have to have healthy fruity food. You have to
Yep.
have fruits. You have to have
Yep.
veggies. People like to have that stuff there. And then what are the knickknacks you're going to have? Are you going to have an auction? Are you going to have raffle prizes? Are you going to have door prizes, right? What are you going to charge, right? All these things that like that seem trivial that you don't really think of, but when you start planning, you'll realize these become things you have to think about. And fortunately, with Kefcon, after I've done it so long, it's automated. It's pretty much automated now, where like
Oh.
uh, people know what to expect at this point. I'm not trying to like cater to a new crowd. Um, I can run the event pretty much myself, at least online, which is why it took me like a month to schedule Carla's game.
Oh.
Right? But when you have it, like for me, the thing is like if I make it relatively easy to run, then I don't need to. I don't. It doesn't have to fall on other people to do, right? I kind of call it my curse because like I don't want other people to have to like do all the stuff, and then there's like the accountability stuff. So if something's wrong or if there's an issue, people just talk to me, right? And
Yeah.
I like that. I like that accountability part. So yeah.
Do you get volunteers though? Like, and if so, what kind of roles do they have
So my
besides
volunteers
the
are
teachers? Like,
yeah. Teachers are the main are probably
yeah.
the heart and soul of the event because they donate their whole weekend there. This is why I don't charge teachers money to come to the event. Like the ones that teach like over 5 games. My default is you got to
Yeah.
teach over 5 games and you could
Oh,
come for free.
exactly.
But
Yeah.
what I have is like my daughter. She's 17 now. She will usually run the door for me. Like the registration table, and then I'll have like a person be a timekeeper. Most of these people who volunteer are my friends. People who expect to have their time donated come my birthday weekend. It's my birthday wish, right? So they can't
That's
say
your
no
gift.
to me. I'm like, well, it's my birthday. You gotta, uh,
And that's why you do your con on your birthday. There you
Yeah.
go.
right? So you call in that
Yeah.
birthday favor, right? And so Kefcon operates with like maybe aside from the teachers, maybe like 3 to 5 volunteers
Wow.
that shift because we don't have to run the canteen anymore, right? And the canteen
Right.
takes a lot of volunteer hours, right? So I don't so I scrap that. Now another person takes care of that, and then all volunteers need to do is they need to run the front desk, and they only need to do that for the start of the day, because then after that I'm just watching the door anyways,
Right.
right? And then I try to have like a timekeeper walk the floor so that the games are running on schedule or that the games end when they're supposed to end because people like to have the tendency to run past the time and that sets everything off, right?
Right.
Finish the game anyways, so it runs pretty. Like I said, I have it down. I have it streamlined pretty good now at this point.
Oh.
Nice. So, other than Kefcon, do you do any other events the rest of the year? And I know I went to your house for just a gaming evening once. Um, I don't know how, like, because we didn't really know each other very well. I was working an event in Edmonton. I'm like, hey, can I come play games?
Yes, you can.
But, yeah. But yeah, do you do anything else the rest of the year?
Yes. So when back before COVID, I used to run like a Kefcon mini event, like a 1 day event, which was usually on a Saturday. So I would call it like what's it called? The expansion event. You know how board
Oh,
games
nice.
are, right? Right. So
That's
I'd have like
great.
a 1 day expansion. But also like I moderate Edmonton board game enthusiasts
Yeah.
group. And so what I try to do to help promote community is I'll host like a Edmonton board game enthusiast meetup, and then like it's free to attend. People don't have to pay anything to come to it. It's just like I'll try to get the venue donated or like low cost. So before we used to host it at this place called FAVA, Film and Video Arts Society of Edmonton, Alberta, and so we would rent this little room, like it was like a room, a lobby for like $100, right? And what I would do is I'd have like a donation box, and people who come could donate or whatever to help pay for it, and then I would buy snacks, and usually I just pay for it out of my own pocket, because like, you know, spending $200 to have a good day, like a good time for a day is pretty good, right?
Yeah.
And so I want to bring it back again now that COVID, well, I'm not going to say COVID is that's the whole thing entirely,
Right.
but now it's easier to get to the table in a
Yes.
public setting. So things like having events like this open again is doable, right?
Yes.
So that's the other thing that I do is like I'll organize this Edmonton board game enthusiast meetup, and sometimes I'll have like 20 people, 30 people throughout the day, which is
Nice.
Perfect.
successful to me.
Yeah.
Awesome. Now, do you bring a library to the convention, or is it like basically just the taught games? Like, do you bring a bunch of games like for people just to play on their own, or do people just bring their own games to this?
So I try to get people to bring their own games, because what happens, like I said, because I don't have a lot of volunteers, I don't have somebody like I don't have a fancy like library scanning, you know,
Right.
PR codes or whatever, scanning the what's it called, the board games. Because what happened was, when I first started Kefcon, the first several years, I would bring almost my entire library, and I would like stack them up, and that's a lot of work, bringing your whole library.
It is.
Right, so try bringing it you bring it for a board game convention for a weekend, and then you have to pack it up, and then guess what, nobody hardly plays the game. So like, you're bringing all these games that hardly anybody's touching. So what I do is I encourage people who are coming, even the teachers, to bring their own games to play throughout the weekend, because what happens is my board games will grow legs and walk out the door. So like, one of the first events, I lost some board games. They went out the door, and I had to buy back one of my board games, which was dumb, but whatever. So then after that, I was like, okay, noted, right?
Yeah.
Well,
So,
and I mean, these gamers we all have such a huge collection. For us to each bring, 5 to 10 games, there's your library right there, right? That's very smart. It's a good idea. We should do that, Mel, so you don't have to bring them all next time for yours too.
I just find that, like, even at game nights, if you have a game night, right, people generally will bring their own games unless you tell them not to, right? So
you always bring more than you need to, right?
Yeah, right. So with Kefcon, the other thing, what I try to do is I try to listen to what people tell me that they want, right? And I've had people tell me throughout the years that they want more free play tables, because in my head, I'm like, okay, people want scheduled games, right? But I'm not hearing that from some people. I'm like, okay, so this year I'm going to dedicate more tables to free play games, right? So that people can bring their own games, and then they can go run their own stuff, right? So we'll see how that goes this year. If those tables are empty, then I'm not going to do it again, right? If they sit empty throughout the weekend, I'm going to be like, see, so you guys asked for this, and now you're right? So if those tables are empty, that must mean if there's free play tables, people must want to bring their games to their table. They must have games they want to play, right?
Yeah.
Because it's not sustainable as an individual to try to buy every game. You can't buy Cascadia and trying to buy like a huge library of current games, right? You just can't financially do it. Like, you cannot.
I mean, I'm trying. There's just so much out there. It's impossible to acquire all that you would like, for sure.
Well, they keep making new ones, so you're like, okay, my list is getting shorter. Oh no, now there's all these new Essen releases. Now it's back up to here. So there's just so many. And then the old ones that I still haven't played, that which is the beauty of conventions sometimes. Like, you have some older games like Colosseum. I can't wait to learn this game. And I've never played it, but this is the chance I get to play it. And I look forward to some of the older games too that they put in the teaching games. So it's not always all about the new and hot. It's about some of the old, really good games that we've just not playing anymore, right?
Yep.
I love it. Now, do you have any future plans for Kefcon? Like, what do you kind of foresee in the next 5 years? What would you like for it to be?
what I would like to achieve with Kefcon is to retire the Kefcon name and have it be more of like a Edmonton thing, like a YEG thing, YEG,
Yeah.
where like because if it grows, which I think there should be some ambition there, where where it contains like the war game group, where it contains the RPG, right? Because some of the bigger conventions they incorporate that, right?
Yeah.
FallCon incorporates both of those things. Terminal City Tabletop Convention, which has like 300 to 400 people and sells out every year, sells out. That's incredible. They have those things too, right? So Edmonton, the thing about Edmonton and the community is we have a vibrant community. We have a lot of people want to do the same thing, but it's all people. There's too many sections, right? And there's opportunity there to create one big thing. And I mean, people can still do their own thing, which is fine. But like what I would really like to do is bring those resources together, bring all that combination of hobbies and create like a big event. That's kind of like my goal. That's something I want to do, and I'm trying to talk to other individuals who run
Yeah.
events and try to get us all on the same table so that we can share resources and create like a whole new thing. That can be as big as FallCon because Edmonton has the potential to do it. We
Oh,
definitely
yeah.
have the community, right? So that's the big thing, and then like it just keep doing what I'm doing, right? Like I really like doing Kefcon. It's like my favorite weekend of the year, and like it's trying to figure out what the next theme is. So the next theme might be like Las Vegas theme,
Oh, yeah.
there's a lot of fun Las Vegas games, right?
Oh,
Like
yeah.
Lords of Vegas, for example, right? Like it
Love
would
it.
be just a fun theme to have like some of those poker tables set up, like a poker table, and then you play
Yeah.
board games on the poker
Yeah.
table, just stuff like that, like little thematic things that my event is small enough that I can achieve that. So that's it. Like I said, Kefcon's pretty streamlined, so it's just a matter of like what's the next theme going to be? What will I do different
Oh,
this
that's
year?
awesome.
And then the YIG event, which hopefully it happens one day, because like I think it should.
Yeah.
Mm.
Oh, we're headed that way into the future. We need more like that, like around, especially these big cities. We need to pull those events off for sure. Well, awesome. That was so awesome to talk to you and listen to all about KefCon and your gaming history and everything. Is there anything else you wanted to add before we head out today, Arsan?
Um, the thing about like um, trying to think of off the top of my head, but like KefCon is like a passion project for me. It's I had one individual one year, like there was a couple of years ago I was going to stop doing KefCon just because like I didn't have the support, like the
Mm-hmm.
support to help me do it, right? And I had this one gentleman at the end of it, and he was like, as long as you have these events, I'm gonna keep coming, right? And that means a lot to me, hearing one person that it means that much, and people saying that it's some people tell me it's their favorite board game convention and stuff like that. Like that is amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Those affirmations like really, really bring purpose to doing it, right? And so. Um, like I like people to notice and to know that when they come to my event. For me, it's not about making money. I don't make money. If I make money, I put it into the raffle prizes that people can win. So like for me, it's just doing it to have fun and keep evenings fun and like hang out with people throughout the weekend, right? Like I have a lot of friends coming from Saskatchewan, like Regina, La Ronge, Saskatoon. Like they're driving all that way to come and hang out for the weekend, right? So it's like it's a really special weekend for me, and like I don't even need to play board games. Like one year I didn't even play board games. I just hang out. I went and sat at different tables and
Yeah.
watched people play games. It's a really special time for me, and like and as an extroverted individual, it's definitely my pleasure to bring that to people, to be able to facilitate something like that for people and get people to play the games that they want to play. I had like this other gentleman who told me, like I go to other conventions to to teach games, but I come to yours to learn games, right? And like,
Nice.
stuff like when you hear stuff like that, it makes you feel really good, right? I'm sure at Melcon people have told you nice things too, and you're like, oh, like things, when you set out to do something, there's what you envision, and then there's the way that people perceive your event or people experience your event, right? And that's why, like I said, I put a lot of heart and soul into Kefcon, and like it's going to be a family thing. My kids are there all weekend, so eventually my kids are going to be integrated, and like it's going to be a family event, right? That they're going to help me run it. So yeah, Kefcon.
That's wonderful. And it's good that, it's rewarding to put all that effort into it and then have people come. And it's great. I'm excited. So again, Kefcon is taking place November 18 to the 20th. If somebody hasn't registered yet, they definitely need to. Because, it's a great event, but also me and Carla are going to be there, so that alone should, make it.
But Arsan, for a lot of games too, so maybe we'll be playing with you.
I filled that schedule. Oh, it's ridiculous. Now, if somebody hasn't registered yet and they do want to attend, how do they go about that?
That's a good question. So if you're on Facebook, just look up Kefcon. Search Kefcon, and you'll see there's the event page, and the event page has a link to the Warhorn website. You can also go on warhorn.net, and on warhorn.net you just search up Kefcon, and you'll find the event. Those are the primary ways of doing it. You can we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, eventually TikTok and stuff like that, but not yet. So that's how people can find the event. It's $40 for the weekend, and like it's $20 a day otherwise. So I try to make it pretty economical for people to attend.
Oh, that's completely worth it.
That is.
Yeah.
It's such a cheap form of entertainment, and it's going to be such a fun weekend. I can't wait. When this recording drops, it'll be less than 2 weeks away. So for us, it's a little bit more than that, but still so excited.
The countdown has started,
I know.
and mark off our calendar, and it's like, hurry up.
Yeah. Exactly. Well, that's awesome. Thanks so much for talking to us. And one more thing, if people want to get a hold of you, because I know you talked about this Facebook page, how could they do that? What kind of social media do you have that you would want to be contacted at?
Yeah, if you're on Facebook, you can just shoot a message through the Facebook page. I personally reply to the emails. It might take me a day to reply to you,
And
but
is
I will
that
reply.
Edmonton Board Game Enthusiasts?
No, Kefcon, Kefcon
Oh,
on there.
the Kefcon. Okay, sorry.
Yeah, but if you're on Edmonton Board Game Enthusiast, you can find me on there. I'm the moderator. I go by Kafir Judas. If you're on, if you go through the website kefcon.ca, there's contact information there too. I think I even have my personal phone number on there. So, right? So I make it really easy for people to contact me. But whether me getting contact, that's a whole different thing, right?
Awesome. What about you, Mel? How can people get a hold of you if they want to contact you?
Yeah. On Facebook, my Facebook group is Mel's and Friends Board Game Room. On Instagram, it's Mel's_boardgame_room. And my YouTube channel is Mel's Board Game Room. How about you, Carla? How can we find you?
I'm on Instagram at Board Game Specialist, all one word. And I have a Facebook page called Red Deer Board Game Fanatics. Yeah, so that's it for this week. Next week, we are going to be talking about our favorite race games, our top 9 race games. So not just about racing or running or just car racing, but race in general. So it could
kind of race mechanism as well.
Yeah, race mechanism. But until then, thank you all for listening, and bye for now.
Bye.
See you guys.